Hello and welcome once again to another edition of Sun Dragon Tips and Tricks. I'm Rebecca. I'm the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in downtown Brevard, North Carolina, and I'm coming to you from my house today. We have been doing our winter knit along or winter make along focusing on cables. And I've done a few revamped cable videos for y'all. And I thought today I would do one on the difference between when you see in your pattern when it says something like C4B and when it says something like T4B. What the heck? What's the difference? I look at those, I call those a classic cable versus a twist. Now, I would put them both under the umbrella category of cables, but one is called more of a C cable and one is called a T twist. And to me, the biggest difference is a twist involves purl stitches as part of your cable. A classic cable with that C, all your stitches are knit. That is the biggest clue to give to you. And it's what makes things like this, I keep going stretching and showing you this, to look like the stitches float over ribbing or over purl stitches. To do that, you need to involve purl stitches in your cable, which is just making stitches change places. The important thing to remember when you're doing that is the stitches that are in front, which is the stitches that would be more visible, need to be knit. And that will change depending on what type of cable it is, whether it's the stitches that are from your left needle or the stitches from your cable needle. So I'm going to go over some lingo for that and some pictures for that, and then we will do some of that. This is the Snowglobe hat by Tin Can Knits, and it makes use of both. When the stitches are going over other knit stitches, there is usually a classic cable. When the stitches are going over purl stitches, there is more of a twist. You can do this to create your own effects. If you want to play around with cables, you can do this to create your own effects. And I haven't actually made this yet, but I'm hoping that the sample I show you, I can just do some spontaneous cabling and show you how that can work. That is how oftentimes designers make it look like stitches are just snaking over a purl background, is because they are using twist cables rather than classic cables. So let's get to it. So just to have in writing what I just said, we're talking about cable lingo today. And we're talking about when you see in the abbreviated lingo of a cable, a C versus a T. What are we talking about? How I define those, I would have the caveat here that always use the key to your pattern, because sometimes these rules won't apply. Sometimes people will make up their own lingo or have their own definition for what they want you to do. So always pay attention to the pattern and see what it's telling you to do. But in general, here is how I define them and how I often see them. The C, I would call them both cables, but the C is a classic cable and the T is a twist. Now, a classic cable, all the stitches are knit, versus a twist, the front stitches are knit, the back stitches are purled. And that, depending on the rest of the lingo, the rest of the letters and numbers in your cable language, this will change whether it is the cable needle stitches or the left-hand needle stitches. So these two things, even though there's only one letter of difference, a C4B and a T4B, they will look different. Both of them, you will take the total number of stitches in the cable. You will put half of them on the cable needle and hold them in back. But what you are doing with the stitches that are in front and in back will change. This one, 2 stitches go on the cable needle and are held in back, and you knit 2 off of your left-hand needle, and then you knit the 2 that are in the back. it makes a classic cable where it just looks like knit stitches are turning over other knit stitches. This one, we'll take a look at the lingo down below. Again, you're taking 2 stitches off, you're holding them in back, but then what you do to the other stitches, some will be knit and some will be purled. Let's take a look at what a T4B will look like in terms of words, symbols, and actual pictures. So a T4B, you're going to take 2 stitches onto your cable needle. Again, remember you divide this number. The way to interpret this, as I just wrote, is that your total number of stitches is here in the middle. Divide that by 2 to know how many stitches are going on your cable needle. The letter over on the right is telling you what to do with those cable needle stitches. And then this T is telling us, again, that we're dealing with some knit and some purl stitches. The ones held in back will be purled. In this case, the cable needle is held to the back. So 2 stitches go onto your cable needle. You hold them in back because of that B, which means the next 2 stitches coming off your left-hand needle are the ones in front, so you're going to knit them. And then you will purl the 2 stitches from your cable needle. Here is that in symbols. This is our rectangular box. If you haven't watched my video on cable charts, the symbol is what you will see in a chart, and I went over a lot of the basics of that. So we're going to jump over them a bit right now, or assume that you've seen those. So a symbol for a twist, this is one where you're holding the stitches in back. So remember, you'll be reading a chart in this direction. You will come to this symbol, and the first 2 stitches, the bottom of this box, we can say is what you're going to do with your cable needle. You're going to take the first 2 stitches and when you put them in back, because these second 2 stitches will be what's in front. And then you can read the top of this with what you do with those stitches, because this symbol will be almost identical to a regular cable symbol except for this dot in the corner. And what that's telling you is the stitches that are behind, not these front stitches. The front stitches are going to lean and they're going to be knit off of your left needle. But then that dot, when you're looking at a regular knitting chart, a dot means to purl. That dot is for these 2 stitches coming off your cable needle will be purled. Now here's what that will look like. We're not going to have a whole lot of pictures in this one of how that functions. I'll show you when I work with yarn in just a minute. Once that cable is done, here is how it will look. Is you will have stitches that crossed in front that lean to the right, and then you will have, those are knit stitches, and then you'll have purl stitches that look like they went underneath or look like the knit stitches just floated above them. To show this to kind of color code this, sometimes the stitches over here were purled before the cable happened, sometimes not. But the purl stitches versus the knit stitches, if you do this, you hold stitches in back and the ones in front get knit, it will look like these knit stitches are floating to the right over the purl stitches. And they will just float. They will look really, really nice and pop up front. Now let's take a look at the difference of a T4F. Now the only difference here from the other one is F, which usually means hold your stitches on the cable needle in front instead of in back. Now this is going to change how we deal with the stitches on the other end. In other words, which ones, the first step in any cable is to take in this case, because it's a 4-stitch total cable, we want to take 2 stitches to the cable needle and hold in front. So the cable needle stitches are the ones that are going to be seen in front. On the other one, they were going to be hiding behind. So the next thing we want to do is the stitches in back, which happen to be the ones coming from our left needle this time. We want to immediately purl the 2 stitches from the left needle and then knit the ones from the cable needle. Again, the logic of this is the ones in front need to be knit. So here's the symbol for it. And as you go through symbols and charts with the cable symbol, think about it as this bottom is telling you how many stitches need to go on the cable needle. So these are our cable needle stitches. They're going to be held in front. They're going to be the ones that are visible. The top of this is telling us what to do with those stitches, like how to work those stitches. So 2 stitches come onto the cable needle and they're held in front. And then we're going to purl 2 stitches off of our regular needle. Then we're going to take the ones off the cable needle and we're going to knit those. That dot tells us that that dot is up here. Whereas in the other symbol, we saw the dot was over here and the stitch is slanted in a different direction. This symbol tells us 2 stitches go on the cable needle. And because they will be visible, they're the ones that are part of this slant. They are held in front. We're purling 2 stitches off the regular needle and then knitting the ones that were on the cable needle that are connected here. This is what it will look like. It will lean to the left. It will lean in the opposite direction of the T4B we just talked about. And in this situation, our pink guys will cross over and lean left, while our purl stitches, in many ways, often with the purl stitches, it will just look like they are hunkered down low and that the knit stitches just float above them. Let's take a look at this with actual yarn and see what we can do. Maybe if we don't have a pattern but are trying to figure out how to make it look like our stitches are twisting over a background. So here's a sample I've started, and I've got my little straight cable needle today. I've been showing you in videos a lot of J-hooks. I think I actually left all my J-hooks at the shop. So I'll show you on a little cable needle. It's fine that it's this small, even though my needles are really big, my knitting needles, my regular needles, because as long as it's smaller than the needle you're knitting with, it won't stretch your stitches and it will definitely work. I have set up this 18 stitch sample where I have 6 purled stitches, I have 4 knit ones, and I have 6 more purls. Now, I'll do a classic cable right here at the beginning with those 4 stitches, and then I want the 2 to look like they move away from each other. So we're going to do some magic cabling here, except it's not really magic. So first, as I get up here, one, two, three, four, 5, 6. If I want to just twist these guys, and usually we want some more structure down here to hold everything in place, but I'm just getting right going. Here are my 4 V's and a classic cable. If we did a C4B, I would take 2 stitches and hold them in back, and that C means everything is knit. So I am going to, and I like to hang on to my cable needle back there if it's a straight one, but I'm going to knit 2 more stitches from my left hand needle. And then if it was a C4B, I'm going to knit these guys as well. Put him down. And it's just knit stitches over knit stitches. If I finish my row, I find even if you're moving things pretty quickly with cabling, most traditional forms of cabling, you're not going to do any cables on your back side. There will be exceptions to almost every rule. But the wrong side of the work, or often if you're knitting in the round, they'll put a straight round of knit your knits and purl your purls in between every twist or cable to give it space. If you're twisting stitches too quickly, it will be very, very tight. So on this back side, those knit stitches become purls because the back side of the work is facing me, but then I have my 4 knit stitches on the right side. Oop, I didn't totally finish that stitch. Become purl stitches here. Whoop, I've got slipping going on because these needles are really big. There's my 4. And then I'm going to knit my 6. Now, what I'm going to demonstrate for y'all, if we take a look, that just makes that cable settle just a bit. I did that on purpose. This one, all of them were knit. It was a classic cable. Now I want to make it look like these 2 pieces, 2 stitches here and 2 stitches here, start moving away from each other, just floating over the purl stitches. So what I can do is these 4 stitches here that I'm coming up to, I'm going to purl 4 and then I'm going to hit a spot where I can do a twist cable instead of a classic cable. And I want these 2 knit stitches to float over, change places with these 2 purl stitches. So let me purl my 4 to get over there. All right, I want these 4 stitches, 2 and 2, to change places. So even if I didn't have the instructions, I could say, okay, I'm going to take these 2 off. These ones I want in front, so I'm going to hold these purl stitches in back. And I'm going to knit these 2 because they are in front. And then these stitches, since I want them to, the 2 that I just knit to look like they're floating in a way, I'm going to purl these 2. This is a T4B is what I'm doing. So I'm going to purl those 2 off of my cable needle. I'll put that guy down. Now instantly I have 2 more knit stitches here and I want these to look like they're going the other direction. So I want these to change places with these 2 stitches. So I will take these 2 stitches, these 2 knit ones, onto my cable needle. I want them to stay in front. So I'm going to stick it down there for a second. Now the stitches in back, I'm going to purl. This is a T4F because the cable needle was held in front. Now I'm going to knit the ones that stayed in front. And once my cable needle is free, I get to put him down again. Might be a little hard to see right now, but I've got purls in there, which will help it look like these guys are floating. Whoop. And now I'm going to purl to the end of the row. Now, to really see clearly what's going on here, I'm going to turn around since I'm working this flat, and I'm going to knit my knits and purl my purls. I'm going to set everything in place, and I am not going to cable anything on this row. So V-necks, I call them V-neck. If we treat the stitches on the needle, these loops on the needle like your neck, and then we look at what collars are hanging underneath them. V-necks, I like to call them, are knit stitches. So I'm going to knit the ones that look knit. And then here are my turtlenecks. Those are purl stitches. So I'm going to purl 1, 2, and these will be tight when they've just been worked. There's 2 purls. That's a V, so I'm going to knit 1, 2. I know it looks weird in there, but they're still knit stitches. 3, 4. I've got 2 purl bumps there. 1, whoop, if I can get that purled. 2. And then these are all V's, so I'm going to knit them. Now if you take a look, it looks like these stitches are just stretching that way to the right, and these stitches are stretching to the left. Let's do it again. Let's take these 2 knit stitches and move them further to the right, so they're going to swap places with these 2 stitches. So I only have 2 stitches to purl before I reach the spot where I want to do a cross. And again, we can kind of intuit out what we want, because if I take these, the first 2 stitches off, if I hold them in front, they're going to cross to the left. If I hold them in back, the next 2 stitches will cross to the right. So I'm going to knit 2. This is a T4B. I'm going to knit 2 off my regular needle. The cable needle was held in back. And then the stitches that are in back are the ones I want to purl. And this last guy might be a little tight. Now I'm not going to cable again right away, because I have these 4 stitches here that are purled, and these guys, I'd like to have the illusion that they move even further to the left. So I'm going to purl over to that spot. There's my last purl, my last turtleneck bump. I'm at my knit stitches, my V-necks again. I want them to move, so I'm going to put them on my cable needle. I'd like this to be the illusion that they keep staying in front, so I'm going to leave that cable needle in front. Whoop. One thing when it's a teeny tiny cable needle is it might want to slide. The stitches that will be in back, I'm going to purl. This is a T4F, and then I'm going to knit the 2 stitches off my cable needle. And then I only have 2 stitches left. All my twisty working yarn there, so I'm going to purl these guys. You can see how it looks like these stitches just float over the purl stitches behind them. Now, I'm about to do a wrong side row. Actually, let me just go ahead and do that. Again, I'm going to knit my knits and purl my purls. So I have 2 V's here, so I'm going to knit those. And I have 2 what I call turtlenecks, so I'm going to purl those. And then I see a bunch of V-necks. So let me go ahead and knit all of those. Even though there's a gap here because that was a traditional cable, a twist cable on the other side. These are still all knit. Now I'm seeing 2 turtlenecks, so I'm going to purl those. And these are V-necks on the end, so I'm going to knit those. So taking a look at what we've done so far, we have some stitches that look like the V's are going out and out over a whole bunch of, it almost looks like bricks behind here, a bunch of our turtlenecks, our pearls. Now we could start angling them right back in again. We'd have a really sharp corner. A lot of classic Aran cables will have a softer curve to them. And the way you do that is maybe a couple of rows where nothing happens. So on this row, if I want this to look more like an oval, curvy shape, on this right side row, I'm just going to knit my knits and purl my pearls across. So I've got 2 pearls, 2 turtlenecks. I'm kind of solidifying things in place here. I've got 2 knits. I've got a bunch of pearls until I reach way over here. With my clunky needles, right? Even though it's almost hidden there, that's 1 more pearl. I've got 2 knits. And I've got 2 pearls. So it turns them kind of going straight up. Wrong side rows, I'm not doing any cables on my wrong side rows. So on the back side here, I'm just going to knit my knits and purl my pearls. I've got 2 V's. These are knits. I've got 2 turtlenecks, 2 slashes, 2 bumps, whatever you want to call them. So I've got 2 pearls. I've got a bunch of knits. So I'm just, all these V-necks, I'm just going to knit them. I am checking as I go. I've got 2 pearls. I didn't finish them, so let me catch it and pull it over. And 2 knits. Now here's the fun. We just had that looking like it goes up. Now for me, the fun is going to be, make it look like these twist in, like rope twisting back in on itself. So what we need to do then, I'd like this leaned to the right to go out, so it's got to start leaning left to go back in. So I'm going to come right up to my knit stitches that I want to lean left. I'm going to grab my cable needle. I'm going to take those 2 stitches, but instead of holding them in back like we have been doing first, I'm going to hold them in front because I want them to go back over to the left. To complete this illusion, it means the next 2 stitches, they're going to be in back, so they get purled. Remember, a twist, a T cable, the back stitches, 1, 2, get purled, and the front ones get knit. It won't look like much yet until we do our backside row, but they're starting to twist back in. Now I've got to take a look. These 2 over here I want to twist back in. So these 2 knit stitches are going to trade places with these 2 purl stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 stitches before I want that to happen. So I'm going to purl them. Everything that's going to be in the quote unquote background, I'm going to purl. Now I have, if I cover up the last 2 with my thumb, I've got my 4 stitches I want to twist places. So let me grab my cable needle again. These 2 stitches need to trade places with these 2, but these 2 on the left are the ones I want in front. So the ones I just put on my cable needle, I'm going to hold in back, and the back ones get purled, but the front ones get knit. So I'm going to knit 2 off my regular needle, and I'm going to purl these 2 off my cable needle. That is a T4B. And then I'm going to purl my last 2. You can see it's starting to turn back in on itself. Let me get through my wrong side row again. Knit my knits. And just be really careful with what is a V-neck and what is not. What is a turtleneck, to keep this all straight on the other side. So my ball rolls away. Now we can pull that in even further. Let's have these 2 stitches trade places with these 2, and these 2 stitches trade places with these 2. It's going to bring them right up close to them again. So I'm going to purl right up to those knit stitches because I want them going towards the center. Take my cable needle, take my 2 stitches that I want to stay in front and float and hold them in front. Remember, on a twist, the back stitches are purled. Pull up my cable needle, and I'm going to knit these 2. And I put my cable needle down, but right away I want to have these 2 stitches on the left trade places with those 2 stitches on the right. So I'm going to take the ones on the right, they're the ones I have access to, I'm going to put them on my cable needle. If I held them in front, these stitches won't be the visible ones, so I need to hold it in back. Remember, knit your front stitches, whether they're on the left-hand needle or the cable needle. You want to knit them. And the cable needle was held in back. And so I'm going to purl them. And I'm having to juggle a little bit here because these needles are wanting to be a little slippery on me. I'm going to purl 1 and 2. And put him down. And then purl the rest of them. I've pulled these back together again. So the knit stitches are touching. If I do one more wrong side row here, I want to show you one more. Let's end with a classic cable because now that those knit stitches are right up against each other, we can complete the illusion of making it look like they're almost like two ropes that are floating and twisting and crossing. All my knits, there's some pearls. All right, take a look at this. If we want to create the illusion to go back to this guy right here, let's have it twist in the same direction. I could make it look like this guy's floating over the other one, but let's have a classic twist just the same as down here. This was a C4B. So if we come up here, if I purl my 6 to get to these center guys, take my cable needle again, take these first 2, hold them in back. Sometimes it just takes some trial and error to get used to how things lean. The logic helps. I'm going to knit 2 off. Again, this is a classic cable. So this is the one time, because I want this illusion of these 2 ropes, I'm going to knit these back 2 as well, which is more like a classic cable, not what we've been doing to make it look like these 2 stitch panels float over the purl panels. So these are all knit to keep the illusion going. And I can purl the rest of this row. And I'm also going to do one wrong side row and come back and show you what it's looking like. So take a look at what it's doing. It looks like these stitches just float over the background. And that's all done with twist cables, except for when knit stitches cross knit stitches. See right in here, we keep the illusion that this guy went under and we'll keep going. If we kept this going, we could have twists going all the way up. So thanks for joining us on how a classic cable, which is all stitches are knit, might be and it's down here too, might be a little different from the illusion of making it look like knit stitches are traveling over purl stitches. The way you do that is a twist cable. Combos of them were used to make these fun illusions in the Snowglobe hat pattern by Tin Can Knits. You can really have a lot of fun with those. The classic really intertwined braided Aran cable patterns tend to be using different combos of these techniques. So when you see that T at the beginning of the lingo for a cable, it most likely means that some of those stitches are knit and some are purled. And if you see a C, it most likely means that all of the stitches are knit. Now, I said in the middle of all of the stuff I was filming, be really careful to read what the pattern writer intends. Try not to make assumptions unless they have not been clear, because some people will use the C lingo for everything, but then they will tell you what they're intending to do when they write out what, either in the chart or in their words, what they want the cables to do. So anyway, we have just celebrated a milestone of passing 8,000 subscribers. I think that's totally fantastic. I never would have predicted when I started this channel that it would grow that much. So thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. You can also become a member. So subscribing is free. Becoming a member You get your name in the credits. That's a monthly donation to the channel. You can give us super thanks. You can give us a tip if you like how these videos are going for you, if they're helping, especially if particular videos are helping you out. Anything you can do just by watching this, you have helped the channel. If you want to give it a thumbs up or a comment, that helps the channel. Welcome to the Sun Dragon community, anyone who's watching this video for the first time. And welcome back to everybody who has been watching a lot of these videos. We really appreciate your support. As I always like to finish, may your crafting be filled with joy and confidence. Bye-bye now.